Good day, everyone. I am Orly Primo, a registered psychometrician, a licensed professional teacher, and a certified human resource associate. And today I will be talking about industrial and organizational psychology. We will be covering several topics, but I'll be dividing this into two for easier absorption of details or of the concepts that will be tackled later on. I will be first focusing on the definition and importance of industrial organizational psychology. Then I'll be proceeding with job analysis and evaluation. We will be talking about talent acquisition and talent management, as well as performance management and training and development. That would be for the first part of our lecture. The second part would consist of employee motivation, employee engagement, organizational communication, leadership, group behavior, and organizational development. Okay, so without further ado, let's start our discussion. We begin with the definition and importance of industrial organizational psychology. I know for sure that most of you, if not some of you, already have an idea of industrial organizational psychology, have that in your previous courses. So basically, we are dividing this industrial organizational psychology into three areas according to our source. We have industrial psychology, organizational psychology, and we also have ergonomics. For the organizational psychology, I will be focusing on that first. It focuses on worker motivation, teamwork, and leadership. It is theoretical in approach as it focuses on processes such as work attitudes, organizational change, and organizational development. As you can observe in this organizational setup, we are focusing on how to develop the organization into better achieving its goals, its vision, mission, and everything that is within the process of the organization. Though they're involved personal in this, we are focusing much on organizational development, how this organization can change, how could it improve its processes so that it could attain the necessary goals and objectives that it has planned. Okay, comparing this to industrial psychology, I would like to term this as personal psychology because some of the books or some of the sources are referring to industrial psychology or personal psychology as focusing on hiring, training, and development, and also on assessing employee performance and the legal issues that are surrounding these processes. As you can see, it is focused at industry. Who should be hired for the job? What are the necessary skills and abilities that we need, that we should set in order for this type of applicant to be hired for the job? As you can see in the second bullet, it says that we are also trying to determine the measurement of job requirements and the individual's knowledge, skills, and abilities. So before hiring a certain person, we are trying to measure his current level of skills, current level of knowledge, and we develop measures, we develop matrices in order for us to assess that and to arrive at that kind of information. So there, that's the main difference between industrial and organizational psychology. We also have a third area, which is ergonomics. Okay, it is concentrating on workplace design, human machine interaction, ergonomics, of course, and physical fatigue and stress. It makes the workplace efficient and safe. So mostly, particular example for this would be your chair. The swivel chair, is it ergonomically correct? Are you be able to work well with your setup, the setup of your computer, the setup of your table, the setup of your chair, and things like that. Okay, so these are the three areas of IO psychology. Now, we move on with the brief history or important events in IO psychology. Okay, this is an important topic. Napaka-importante ng topic na ito because it is also somehow gives us a foundation of how our IO psychology has developed from its precursor or from this area or from this certain time. Okay, I've just picked up some of the necessary information that you are needing. Hindi lahat ilalagay natin for the whole discussion. Okay, so pre-World War, the first school for professional management was established in 1881. And also, Joseph Wharton donated to the University of Pennsylvania an amount of money to be used for research revolving around industrial or organizational psychology. Okay, another person who is prominent pre-World War I is W.L. Bryan, who gave a speech in the APA encouraging psychologists to conduct research on concrete activities and functions as they appear in everyday life. Okay, this is where we can also see pragmatics, okay, and concrete activities. Okay, because psychology is not we cannot really visibly see more of the study of psychology is not focused more on pragmatics or evidence. That's why W.L. Bryan is saying that we should focus on concrete activities and functions. Okay, in 1918, World War I provides IO psychologists with the first opportunity for large-scale employee testing and selection. I know for sure that this is famous to you, the Army Alpha and the Army Beta. Alpha is used for recruits who could read and write. We also have the Army Beta test, which was used for recruits who could not read and write. After selection of these recruits, those who are more intelligent would be given positions in higher areas such as supervisory, those that are needing decision making, and those people who are less intelligent, they were positioned or they were distributed to areas which do not need much of thinking or cognitive skills. Okay, I hope you get that. Now, we also have in 1933 the famous Hawthorne studies. Okay, it was published in 1933, and psychologists became more involved in the quality of the work environment. I repeat, it's work environment, as well as the attitudes of employees. The Hawthorne studies demonstrated that employee behavior was complex and that the interpersonal interactions between managers and employees played a tremendous role in employee behavior. Mind you that the Hawthorne studies was not focused at this proving this kind of hypothesis. They were studying a different hypothesis. They were trying to look into a different perspective, but accidentally they have found out that employee behavior was really complex, and there is that interaction between managers and employees. Okay, in 1960s, these are the following events that took place, which are very important. The passage of several major pieces of civil rights legislations focusing on the development of fair selection techniques among HR professionals. As you can see, fair selection techniques, because rampant in that era or in that time, would be for people not to use fair selection techniques, and they just base their opinions or their decision makings, their hiring decision on merely judgment and not on scientific data. Okay? They also, in 1960s, they also used sensitivity training and T groups or laboratory training groups for managers. Okay? In the 1970s, there was a great stride in the understanding of many organizational psychology issues that involve employee satisfaction and motivation. Okay? The decade also saw the development of many theories about employee behavior in organizations. B.F. Skinner's Beyond Freedom and Dignity resulted in the increased use of behavior modification techniques in organizations. I know for sure in your learning, in your theories of learning or psychology of learning, you have encountered B.F. Skinner and the famous operant conditioning. As you can see, this is the underlying theory behind behavioral rather learning. That's hence we have behavior modification techniques in organizations, mostly concentrated on incentives, punishment, and those concepts. Okay? In the 1980s and the 1990s, there were four major changes in the setup of organizational psychology and industrial psychology. We have the increased use of fairly sophisticated statistical techniques and methods of analysis. Okay? Such as we have the statistical analysis or statistical tools that are used in research. There is also a new interest in the application of cognitive psychology to industry and the increased interest in the effects of work on family life and leisure activities. IO psychologists also took a renewed interest in developing methods to select employees. Now we move on with job analysis and evaluation. What is job analysis and evaluation? Okay, so it is a process where a practitioner or researcher undertakes to determine the core tasks of a certain job. So what does he do? He or she lists down essential competencies that an individual should possess in order to do the job adequately. Okay? The use of the job description allows the employer and the employee to agree on expectations which would later on be used in the employee's performance appraisal. This would contain the job title, the job summary, duties and responsibilities of the job. And job descriptions may also contain competencies needed to do the job with proficiency ratings accompanying it that it would serve as a basis for hiring employees. Well, another purpose for job analysis is job classification. This is done to know which jobs can be banded together. Job classification is normally done per job function. I would say other importance or uses of job analysis for writing job descriptions, employee selection, training, person power planning, performance appraisal, the term I mentioned earlier, job classification. We also have job evaluation and job design. It is also used for compliance with guidelines and organizational analysis, along with task analysis and person analysis. Okay, so that's a brief way to give an information or definition of job analysis. We also have job description. A job description, ano nga ba ang job description? It is a relatively short summary of a job and should be about 2 to 5 pages in length. Okay? Take note, 2 to 5 pages in length. It should be relatively short. It should be brief. Okay? It is a detailed description of job tasks, procedures, and responsibilities, the tools and equipment used, and the end product or service. Now, you may wonder what's inside a job description. It consists of the job title. An accurate title describes the nature of the job, and an accurate title also aids in employee selection and recruitment. Job title, for example, my job in DOH right now is Program Development Management Officer 2. That is the job title. Okay, brief summary is the summary need be only a paragraph in length, but should briefly describe the nature and purpose of the job. What is this person or what is this job really doing? A summary of that. Okay. Work activities. The work activities select section lists the tasks and activities in which the worker is involved. What are the tasks that this person who is doing this kind of job are. Okay, we also have the tools and equipment used. A section should be included that lists all the tools and equipment used to perform the work activities in the previous section. This is very important because when you're looking at the whole job description, you would really have an idea of what are the necessary competencies that that person must possess. Is he able to operate, or would that job require operating a certain machine? Would that job require using a certain software or a certain complex machine? And that would determine what kind or what level of function or what level of competency that person should be possessing. Okay? Alright, so other inclusions of the job description with the job context. These sections should describe the environment in which the employee works and should mention the stress level, the work schedule, the physical demands. Are you going to go overtime? How much are you going to spend with a certain machine if you're a worker using a machine? The level of responsibility. Are you the one making decisions, or you're going to consult that decision to another higher person? Okay. It's also including work performance. What are the standards of performance? This is a very detailed area we're in. At what level should you be conducting a certain job? In the intermediate level, the basic level, or the advanced level? Okay. We also have compensation performance. This section of the job description should contain information on the salary grade. How much should be the employee receiving at the end of the month if you are paying the employee monthly? Whether the position exempt, and the compensable factors used to determine salary. When we mean compensable factors, ano doon sa trabaho ang babayaran mo para malaman natin kung magkano ang ibibigay na salary. Okay, compensable. Basically, it's for the job. Okay, siya compensable factors. We also have job competencies. This section contains what are commonly called as job specifications or competencies. These are the knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics, otherwise known as the KSAO. Okay, such as interest, personality, and training that are necessary to be successful on the job. So when they are going to ask you what is the difference between a job description and a job specification, you would be saying that mostly for job description, it is containing a more detailed description, and it focuses on job tasks, procedures, and responsibilities, while it also contains competencies. Okay, because job specification is within the job description. When they ask you about job specification, it's only focusing on the competency, the KSAO. Right? Okay. So, what are the steps in job analysis? I don't want to be detailed about this. We're just going to go through it. For step 1, you should identify the tasks being performed. So what do? You gather existing information about the job. Okay. You can also interview subject matter experts, which will give you information about the job. Okay. You can also observe your incumbents or the workers for you to be able to test or to identify the tasks that they are performing. And you can also participate in the job. Job participation is when you are also performing that certain job. It is where you're able to get a first-hand experience of what that worker is really trying to do in a certain job. Okay, next is to write your task statements. This will be used in the task inventory, and a task inventory would show the tasks that are within a certain job. Okay, and it should be included in the job description. It can include components where the task is done, how it is done, why it is done, and when it is done. Saan nangyayari, kailan nangyayari, paano ginagawa, at bakit siya ginagawa. Okay? For step 3, you need to rate the task statements. Number 1 under this major step, is to conduct a task analysis with subject matter experts. Okay, what do you do in a task analysis? You're going to allow the subject matter experts to rate your tasks and then organize their ratings into a table, and then you're going to scratch out or remove those that are not to be included in the job description. So those who receive an average frequency rating of lesser than or equal to 0.5, they should not be included in your job description. Okay? Right, so for step 4, we are going to determine essential KSAOs. For the information of everyone, K for knowledge is a body of information needed to perform a task. So when we are going to ask, or when someone asks you what is this area, it's actually what you know about the job. If you're applying as a call center agent or as a BPO, what is your knowledge about the business process outsourcing industry? What do you know about it? If you're applying for a training specialist position, what do you know about learning and development? That's knowledge. And it comes mostly because of education and experience. Okay? Skill is the proficiency to perform a learned task. How are you proficient in performing a certain task? That's your skill. Okay? Magaling kang magsulat ng report. How good are you in writing a report? So maybe an intermediate level or an advanced level. Ability, on the other hand, is a basic capacity for performing a wide range of different tasks, acquiring a knowledge or developing a skill. It is usually larger in scope. Okay, it is usually associated with aptitude and the other factors. Okay, other characteristics include such personal factors such as personality, your willingness to maybe go on a deployment activity in Ifugao for the vaccination, your interests, what fields are you interested at, and motivation in such tangible factors such as your licenses, your degrees, and years of experience. So education would be in other characteristics. Okay, what were your accomplishments? What were your awards and everything? Okay. And next is selecting tests to top KSAOs. Okay, so in selecting tests to top KSAOs, these are used to select new employees and include such methods as interviews, work samples, ability tests, personality tests, reference checks, integrity tests, biodata, and assessment centers, which are also used in the RSP or the recruitment selection placement process. Okay. Now, we also have other job analysis techniques that we are using. So, for the methods that provide general information, we have the position analysis questionnaire or the PAQ. This is the most common method. It is a structured instrument developed at Purdue University by McCormick, Jenrette, and Mecham, and is now available from PAQ Services in Bellingham, Washington. Okay. We also have the Job Structure Profile or JSP. A revised version of the PAQ was developed by Patrick and Moore in 1985, and this is the JSP. The major changes in the revision, which is called the Job Structure Profile. We also have the JEV or the Job Elements Inventory, which was developed by Cornelius and Haeckel in 1978. It contains 153 items and has a readability level appropriate for an employee with only a 10th grade education. So it is lowered to a level wherein a 10th grade finisher can comprehend. We also have the Functional Job Analysis or the FGA. It was designed by Fine as a quick method that could be used by the federal government to analyze and compare thousands of jobs. Next, we also have the method providing information about tools and equipment. We have the Job Components Inventory, or the GCI. It consists of more than 400 questions covering 5 major categories. You have tools and equipment, perceptual and physical requirements, mathematical requirements, communication requirements, and decision-making and responsibility. I want you all to take note of these tests because in the previous board examination, these tests were really asked, especially PAQ. We also have method providing information about work environment. We have the AAT, which has a long, and I think it's a German term. It's an acronym for that German term, which basically means ergonomic job analysis procedure. By ergonomic, we mean that the instrument is primarily concerned with the relationship between the worker and work objects. Yeah, it was developed in Germany by Romert and Landau. The AAT is a 216-item standardized questionnaire that analyzes a job along certain dimensions. We also have methods providing information about competencies such as the Occupational Information Network and the Critical Incident Technique. The ONET is a national job analysis system created by the federal government to replace the Dictionary of Occupational Titles, which had been in use since the 1930s. The Critical Incident Technique, or CIT, on the other hand, was developed and first used by John Flanagan and his students in the University of Pittsburgh in the late 1940s and early 1950s. The CIT is used to discover actual incidents of job behavior that make the difference between a job's successful or unsuccessful performance. We have other methods which provide information about competencies. We have the JCI, the Threshold Traits Analysis. We have the Fleischmann Job Analysis Survey, or FJAS. We have the Job Adaptability Inventory, rather. We also have the Personality Related Position Requirements Form, or the PPRF. So, as you can see, there are a lot of methods which provide information about competencies. I would leave that to you for your reading. Please take note of these methods. We also have, in job evaluation, it is important that we determine internal pay equity. Okay? And determining internal pay equity. So please don't mind the step 5 there. Okay? We have internal pay equity involving comparing jobs within an organization to ensure that the people in jobs worth the most money and are paid accordingly. Sorry, I was not able to edit this step 5. It should be determining external pay equity. So for the internal pay equity, we are trying to look into determining the compensable job factors, or the JCF, the levels of each compensable factor, and the factor weights. How much would this factor correspond to a certain salary? Okay? Kaya siya internal pay equity. We are going to compare the jobs within the organization. Okay? So what job is more high paying? What job should be receiving this kind of pay? Okay? For step 5, we are going, for determining external pay equity, the worth of a job is determined by comparing the job to the external market or other organizations. So, most organizations use salary surveys. Ipapasagot nila yan sa labas, and they gather and they would look into how are our jobs paying compared to other jobs in other organizations. Okay, so there. Now we move on to talent management, or recruitment, selection, and placement, or simply recruitment and selection. RSP, that's the complete process recruitment that includes selection and placement. Okay, what is talent acquisition? Talent acquisition and recruitment are two interrelated terms which are different. Okay, talent acquisition is the most basic part of the organization as well as recruitment, of course, and it deals with getting the right people into organization or institution. It deals with the process of acquiring talents for whatever purpose, whether there is a vacancy or not. And this is the main difference between talent acquisition and recruitment. Okay? Because in recruitment, we are hiring to fill a vacancy in the organization. And we actively seek out and find and hire candidates for a specific position or job. That's why we do advertisements. Okay? It includes the entire hiring process from inception to the individual recruit's integration into the company or the onboarding process. Okay? Can either be done internally or externally, as we can recruit our employees internally. So, pwede tayo mag-hire from people inside the organization, or we can also hire people outside of the organization, external. Okay? So there, the recruitment, selection, and placement is actually a basic process in the organization that involves finding the candidate with the best skills, experience, and personality to fit the job. It requires a series of collecting and reviewing resumes, conducting job interviews, and finally selecting and onboarding an employee to start working for the organization. Okay, after you place a certain employee for a certain position, then you also need to onboard that. So that onboarding is also part of the recruitment, selection, and placement, which should be conducted by the HR. What some organizations, they integrate that with the training. Okay, why is it that it says a series of collecting and reviewing resumes? We are going to post, for example, advertisement that we are hiring, and after that, we are going to select. And we're going to select, and we're also going to place them after interviewing and determining who should be placed or who are successful in the job selection. Okay? So, what are the common methods of recruitment? We are not going into the detail of this. Alam niyo naman na ang ibig sabihin. For media advertisements, we have newspaper. We're putting this in newspaper or electronic media. Okay? Kung hindi gumagana ang newspaper, then we go for media for electronic media. We also have situation wanted ads. Paano ba tong situation wanted ads? These are placed by the applicant rather than by organizations. So these ads take a variety of forms, some less extensive qualifications, some give applicants names, and some are generally more creative than others. Okay? And the effectiveness of this is 69.4% of those applicants placing ads were contacted. Okay? Now we also have the POP method. The POP method of recruitment is based on same POP advertising principles used to market products to consumers. In employee recruitment, job vacancy notices are posted in places where customers or current employees are likely to see them. Store windows, bulletin boards, restaurant placemats, and the sides of trucks. So, okay siya point of purchase. Right? We also have recruiters. We have campus recruiters, we have outside recruiters. We also have employment agencies and firms. Okay, we have employment agencies, executive search firms, and public employment agencies. We also have PESO in the LGUs. Okay, Public Employment Special Office, something like that. Okay, we also have employee referral, and this is a good way for current employees to recommend family members and friends for specific job openings. A survey investigating this referral method indicated that about 50%, imagine that, it's 50% of private organizations have formal referral programs and 66% use employee referrals in some way. Why? Because this is mostly the credibility of the one referring the family. So if that person is highly performing in a certain job, and most likely yung person na i-recommend niya is someone who is also high performing. We also have direct mail. Okay, because direct mail has been successful in product advertising, rather, several organizations have used it to recruit applicants, especially those who are not actively job hunting. Right? So these are the common methods of recruitment. We also have the internet, of course. We can post it on the internet using employer-based websites or internet recruiters. Okay. I think we use the jobstreet.com and everything that's in the web or the internet. Okay. We also use job fairs. We also have incentives. Okay. Incentives, when unemployment rates are low, organizations have to take extra measures to recruit employees. Kaya tayo nagbibigay ng incentive. Okay? Though these incentives often come in the form of a financial signing bonus, other types of incentives can also be used in attracting applicants. We also have non-traditional population. Non-traditional population. So, dito naman, we are going to recruit passive applicants, yung mga hindi active, because most likely those who are active have already been into other organizations and most likely been hired for those organizations. What we need to hire are those passive applicants who did not show their interests in job in other organizations. Okay? Because they might be possessing a hidden talent. Okay? It doesn't mean that they're passive, they're untalented, or they're unskilled. They can also possess skills and talents. Right? So, there. Now, we also need to evaluate the effectiveness of these recruitment methods para natin malaman na, mas maganda pala na gamitin ang certain method na ito compared sa method na iba. Okay? So, for step 1, we need to examine the number of applicants. We need to consider the cost per applicant. Magkano ba ang nagastos natin para sa isang aplikante? Next is ilan ang qualified na applicant among sa lahat ng aplikante. Next is to determine the cost per qualified applicant. Magkano ang nagastos para sa isang qualified na aplikante. Next is you're going to determine the number of successful applicants generated by each source. Ilan dito sa, for example, internet, ilan ang na-generate nila na successful, na nakapasa. Okay, na na-hire actually. Mas maganda pa na na-hire na siya and was placed in a certain job. So how many employees were there? Right? So for step 6, the last one is we also look into the number of minorities and women that applied for the job and got hired. Why? Because this is looking for inclusivity, and we are also trying to look into providing an avenue for women to go for jobs. Okay? Right? So, there. Studies found that employees recruited through inside sources stayed with the organization longer and performed better than employees recruited through outside sources. We have several explanations why this is happening, but the first theory that's suggesting this is that applicants who are referred by other employees receive more accurate information about the job than do employees recruited by other methods. Yung sinabi ko kanina na referral. Okay? So, in the recruitment, selection, and placement, I listed 2 important topics which are nice to know. I'm sure that you have heard about RJP and ELP. Okay, these are both techniques done in the recruitment process. The realistic job preview is a way for employees, for future employees to have an honest assessment of the job. So, for example, instead of telling the applicant how much fun she will have working on the assembly line, the recruiter honestly tells her that although the pay is well above average, the work is often boring and there is a little chance for advancement. So, sasabihin mo yan sa nag-a-apply, sa interview pa lang. I've experienced this in also with my coworkers in DOH. Mabilis silang umalis because they were not given this RJP. Ang ginagawa is like they're sugarcoating that what you do in the job or in your position would be good and walang masyadong boring na task. Pero pag pumunta na sila sa job, boring na pala. Okay? So that's RJP. And a variation of RJP is ELP. Ang difference niya sa expectation lowering procedure, you are really trying to lower the expectation of a certain person or a certain employee na hindi lahat ng nangyayari sa job ay ideal. Okay? What happens inside the job may be different with what you are having in mind. So the job of the ELP is to reduce that and to lessen your expectations about a certain job. While the RJP is talking mostly about job content beliefs. Ano ba ang meron sa trabaho na ito? Right? So these are all leading towards job-related outcomes, especially job satisfaction, employee commitment, okay, organizational awareness, organizational commitment, and employee engagements as well. Okay. Now, what are the methods of recruitment? Let's first start with the interview. We have three first here listed. We have based on structure, based on style, and based on medium. When we say based on structure, we have structured and unstructured. You know for sure that these are important. Structure, we are following a certain structure. And when we say it based on style, we have one-on-one interview. We have serial interview wherein it consists of series of single interviews. We have return interview, which are similar to serial interview with the difference being a passing of time between the first subsequent interview. We also have panel interview. You have a group of interviewers. Okay, for based on medium, we have face-to-face interview. We also have telephone interview, video conference interview, and written interview. Now, I want to tackle structured interview. We have interview questions. When we say structured interview, we're going to write interview questions. Okay, and these are some of the interview questions that are used. We have the clarifiers, disqualifiers, skill level, determiners. We also have future focus, past focus, and organizational fit. When we say clarifiers, this allows the interviewer to clarify information in the resume, cover letter, and application, and fill in gaps and obtain other necessary information. When we say disqualifier, these are questions that must be answered a particular way or the applicant is already disqualified. Okay, siya disqualifier. We have skill level determiner, which tap an interviewee's level of expertise. We also have future focused questions, also called situational questions. This asked an applicant what she would do in a particular situation in the future. Okay, and for past focused questions, this is sometimes referred to as pattern behavior description interviews, and it's different from situational interview questions by focusing on previous behavior rather than future intended behavior. What did you do when this kind of event happened in the past? Okay, for the organizational fit questions, we tap the extent to which an applicant will fit into the culture of an organization or with the leadership style of a particular supervisor. Okay, so we also, since this is a structured interview, we're going to have scoring keys, and we can use the right or wrong approach. We have a right answer and a wrong answer. Okay, we also have the typical answer approach. So for this one, there is already an answer, which is a typical answer. And if you're going to say this in your interview, then your rating would be higher compared to others who did not answer. Okay, we also have key issues approach. Okay, this approach uses SMEs to create a list of key issues that they think should be included in the perfect answer. Right? Okay. So, right, that's for a structured interview. The other types, you may refer to them in the notes. Right? So, we also have reference. What is a reference check? It is a process of confirming the accuracy of information provided by an applicant. So normally HR would be requiring an applicant to give character references in order for them to verify the accuracy, the truthfulness of the information provided by the applicant in the resume. Okay, and also in the interview. A reference is the expression of an opinion, either orally or through a written checklist, regarding an applicant's ability, previous performance, work habits, character, etc. While a recommendation is a letter expressing an opinion regarding the applicant's ability, the previous performance of that applicant, work habits, character, or potential for future success. These are the uses of reference and recommendation. It confirms details on a resume. It checks for discipline problems. May nagawa ba siyang mali dun sa previous job niya? Discovering new information about the applicant. What are the skills that the applicant can do or can do? What are the innovations that he or she did in his previous organization? It can also predict future performance. Okay? But recently, and in our source, reference and recommendations may not be a good way to predict future performance because some character references inflate their ratings, okay, of their subordinates. Now, we have other successful methods of predicting future performance. We can either use applicant training and education, we can use applicant knowledge, we can use ability, we can use applicant ability, we can use applicant skill, we can also use prior experience and personality, interests, and character. Right? So, there. For the applicant ability, we can use this. We can check the cognitive ability, the perceptual ability, psychomotor ability, and physical ability. Cognitive, of course, we're talking about oral and written expression, and the others. We can use the Wonderlic personal test, the Miller analogous test, the Siena reasoning test, and the situational judgment test in tapping or in assessing the cognitive ability of a person. We can also check the perceptual ability using other tests, okay? And this perceptual ability is focusing on vision, color discrimination, depth perception, glare sensitivity, speech, etc. For the psychomotor ability, it includes finger dexterity, manual dexterity, and etc. Okay? For the physical ability, these are often used for jobs that require physical strength and stamina, such as being a police officer, firefighter, or a lifeguard. Right? So, we can also determine future performance using an applicant skill by using the work samples in assessment center. Okay, for the work samples, we are going to allow the applicant to perform an actual job-related task. Okay, for example, an applicant for a job as an automotive mechanic might be asked to fix a torn fan belt, etc. Okay, for the assessment center, we have a lot of techniques used in an assessment center. Okay, sorry, hindi ko natatanggal ulit yan. Right, so we have in-basket technique. We also have simulation. Work sample is also part of the assessment center. We also have leaderless group discussion, or the LGD, and we also have business games. In-basket technique is designed to simulate the types of daily information that appear on a manager's or employee's desk, while simulation exercises are the real backbone of the assessment center because they enable assessors to see an applicant in action. While the work samples, um, we are going to look really at a sample of a work, okay? And it's not a simulation because we are going to look into really the job and how the person is really doing the job, performing the job. We also have LGD, wherein applicants meet in a small group and are given a job-related problem to solve or a job-related issue to discuss. We also have business games, of course. Okay. Now, we also have personality, interest, and character as a measure of predicting future performance. We have PI or personality inventories, such as the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator or the MBTI, the 16PF, the MMPI or the Minnesota Multifaceted Personality Inventory. We have the Hogan Personality Inventory. We also have the California Psychological Inventory in the NEOPI-R. For the interest inventories, we have the SII or the Strong Interest Inventory, the Minnesota Interest Inventory, the Cooder Occupational Interest Inventory, the Cooder Preference Record, and the California Occupational Preference System. For the integrity test, this tells an employer the probability that an applicant would steal money or merchandise. Integrity tests are used mostly in the retail area. We also have the CRT or the conditional reasoning test. Now, to reduce these inaccurate responses and get a more accurate picture of a person's tendency to engage in aggressive or counterproductive behavior, we're going to use the CRT. Another method used to assess personality, interest, and character is graphology, wherein we analyze the handwriting of the employer, the applicant. Okay? Right? So, how should we make our hiring decisions? We can use the unadjusted top-down selection, wherein applicants are rank ordered on the basis of their test scores. Selection is then made by starting with the high score and moving down until all openings have been filled. We also have the rule of three, which is a technique often used in the public sector, in which the names of the top three scorers are given to the person making the hiring decision. But in the Philippines, rule of five. Okay, we're going to give 5 of the names of the top 3 scorers in all the interview and the test or exam. And then the head of the agency would be the one to select. So for this type of just a sharing, even if you're the top one, if the person making the higher decision favors the other, then he or she would be choosing that, even if he or she is top 5. We also have passing scores, means for reducing adverse impact and increasing flexibility. With this system, an organization determines the lowest score on a test that is associated with acceptable performance on the job. We also have banding, wherein it attempts to hire the top test scorers while still allowing some flexibility for affirmative action. Banding takes into consideration the degree of error associated with any test score, right? Okay, so we continue with performance management. Okay, for performance management, it's about ensuring employee productivity and effectivity in achieving set goals and targets. It is a cycle of planning, monitoring, reviewing, and evaluating outcomes based on set targets. Performance management is not solely focused on the employee performing. Recently, organizations have widened the aspect to involve organizational, departmental, program, and project performance. Each aspect of the organization is now subject to performance reviews and issues to ensure that the goals of the organizations are met. Performance, on the other hand, is defined as the ability to produce outputs or results. Typically, performance is measured in three levels. We have the organization, the employee, and the process. Organizations base their performances on its vision, mission, and operating strategies. These are normally driven by the company's top management and executed by their teams. Okay, so um, what do we do in evaluating employee performance? We determine the reason for evaluating employee performance, such as providing employee training and feedback, determining salary increases, making promotion decisions, making termination decisions, and conducting personal research. Next is we identify environmental and cultural limitations, which is an appraisal process to that could affect the whole, no, the whole performance appraisal. For example, if supervisors are highly overworked, an elaborate, time-consuming performance appraisal system will not be successful. Next is to determine who will evaluate the performance. Would it be the supervisor? Would it be the peer? Would it be the subordinate, the customer, or self-appraisal? Common is a good way, rather, it's not common, but a good way to evaluate is the 360-degree feedback or the appraisal, right? Next, we are going to select the best. We're going to select the best appraisal method. Okay. So, in determining the best appraisal method, we have the dimensions. We have it's either trait-focused performance dimension, competency-focused performance dimension, task-focused performance dimensions, goal-focused performance dimensions, or contextual performance. When we say trait-focused, we are concentrating on employee attributes such as dependability, honesty, and courtesy. When we say competency-focused, we are focusing on competency-focused dimensions such as knowledge, skills, and abilities. When we say task-focused, we're focusing on the tasks that are performed. And for the goal-focused, we are going to look into the basis of goals to be accomplished by the employee. We also have contextual performance, wherein psychologists have begun to study contextual performance, that is, the effort that employee makes get along with peers, improve the organization, and perform tasks that are needed but are not necessarily an official part of the employee's job description. Okay, going back with the steps, we also have to train our raters, evaluate, observe, and document the performance. We are going to evaluate the performance and then communicate appraisal of results to employees. And then what do? We terminate employees, or we retain, or we promote. So going back, we have employee comparison as one way of appraisal method. We can have the rank order, the paired comparison, and the forced distribution. For the rank order, this is the easiest and most common of these methods, wherein employees are ranked in order by their judged performance for each relevant dimension. For the paired comparison, this method involves comparing each possible pair of employees and choosing which one of if each pair is the better employee. So employee E is compared with employee C, right? We also have forced distribution method, wherein a predetermined percentage of employees are placed in each of the 5 categories, also called the rank and yank, were a favorite method of Jack Welch, the former chief executive officer of General Electric, who required managers to fire the bottom performing 10% of their employees each year. So it's actually 20-70-10, right? We also have objective measures of appraisal. We have the quantity of work, how much work does the person do, ilan ang nagagawa niya, natatapos niya, for example, sa assembly line siya nakastay. The quality of work, gaano kaganda ang kanyang ginagawa. Okay? and the attendance, of course, and also safety. For the attendance, we can separate that into three distinct criteria: absenteeism, tardiness, and tenure. Okay. We also have safety, which is going to allow us to evaluate the success of an employee. Right? We also have ratings of performance as our appraisal method. We have the graphic rating scale, wherein we're going to rate a certain employee from 5 to 10 dimensions accompanied by words such as excellent and poor, anchoring the ends of the scale. We also have behavioral checklists, which consists of a list of behaviors, expectations, or results for each dimension. This list is used to force the supervisor to concentrate on relevant behaviors that fall under a certain dimension. Okay. We also can compare with other employees. We can also use frequency of desired behavior. Tinatali mo kung kailan siya lumalabas. We also have the extent to which organizational expectations are met. The other rating scales used are the bars, or the behaviorally anchored rating scales, the forced choice rating scale, the mixed standard scale, the behavioral observation scales, or the BOS, which was developed by Latham and Wexley, and it's a more sophisticated method for measuring the frequency of desired behaviors. What are the common errors in performance appraisal? Take note of this because these are current topics currently being asked in IO. We have distribution error. When we say distribution error, we are either conducting leniency error, or central tendency error, or the strictness error. When we say leniency, we give higher scores to employees. When we say central tendency, we give the average score, and for strictness error, we give low scores. Okay, these distribution errors are made when a rater uses only one part of a rating scale. Okay, isa lang ang ginagamit niya na criteria either in rating. Right, so we have also halo error. A halo error occurs when a rater allows either a single attribute or an overall impression of an individual to affect the ratings that she makes on each relevant dimension. We also have proximity errors. This occurs when a rating made on one dimension affects the rating made on the dimension that immediately follows it on the rating scale. For example, if an employee is rated low, there is a possibility for the next one to have a rating that is also somehow low. But for contrast errors, the performance rating of one person can be influenced by the performance of a previously evaluated person. Sorry, yun pala yung example ko kanina for proximity error. Okay? Ang ganda ng performance nung naunang interviewee, so yung next, pwedeng mababa, or the other way around. We also have sampling problems. Number one is recency effect. These performance appraisals are typically conducted once or twice a year. The evaluation is designed to cover all the behaviors that have taken place during previous 6 months to a year. Ang problema is that a recent activity of an employee may be the sole basis of the performance appraisal. So that's a common error in performance appraisal, because you should be looking at the whole duration of the employee staying in the organization, 6 months to 1 year. Okay. We also have infrequent observation. Many managers or supervisors do not have the opportunity to observe a representative sample of employee behavior. Okay? Kasi infrequent yung paglabas-labas nila. So how could they be able to really appraise or evaluate that certain behavior. Okay? Now, since we have conducted the performance appraisal, maybe you're wondering, ano ang difference ng performance appraisal, nabubulol ako. Performance appraisal sa performance evaluation. Evaluation is just a part of the performance appraisal. It is an aspect of performance appraisal because appraisal is a continuing process. Okay? There, what are the justified reasons for termination? We can either, based on the results of the performance appraisal, we can terminate our employees. Pwede natin silang tanggalin sa kanilang trabaho. Right? And other reasons for termination, justified reasons for termination would be absenteeism and tardiness, personal work during office hours, personal work during office hours, confidentiality or breach of confidentiality, personal problems, and conflict. So these reasons, as you can see on your screen, are justified reasons for termination. Okay? And we can back this with our performance appraisal. All right? So I'll end this first session pala with performance appraisal. We proceed with the next with training and development and the next topics. Right? So that is for the part 1 of our discussion.